I'm going to get you involved very much towards the end of the lecture. If there is something you want to ask in between, please do so. Although when I was preparing this, I just wanted really to have genuine fun with you. I thought of a film in 4 scenes, and you contribute to the 4th scene 80%, and I do most of my job on the first 3 scenes. It's like one of these films where at the beginning something starts, the film starts with a murder or someone who dies, and then you go back and you see the same guy when he was younger and he was a boy, and so you understand that the film is starting from the end. So my first scene is today. It has nothing to do with the episodes between the Second World War and the rise of European integration, but it is exactly how I personally, there is an element of reflexivity here that I'm offering you my own reflection. I got to think about this manifesto. And the first scene today is the scene of the current economic and financial turmoil. I know you study international relations, but I think you may have seen the debate over the last few months on the rescue fund for the countries of the Eurozone that are under speculative attack. You may have also seen the December decisions taken first by ECOFIN, which is the Council of Finance Ministers of the EU, at the beginning of December, and then mid-December the EU Council of Ministers taking a very important decision on the entity of the money that was available to stabilize the economies, Portugal, Greece, Ireland, perhaps Spain, and perhaps other countries again, with the idea of calming the markets. And that was something that, like a hammer, was going on and on in my head. We need to calm the markets. Actually, the markets were not calmed by the increasing amounts of money that the EU leaders were putting on the table. Actually, the markets were calmed by the Christmas holidays, so they had to close the markets at some point, go on holiday, and everything looked calm for a while. And then January came, and over the last 6 weeks of January and early February, we have seen more and more discussions, a collection of Financial Times articles on the rescue fund and how it's going to be operating, whether the International Monetary Fund will intervene again. The level of the deal they're talking about now is 444 billion euros. This is really a lot, and it comes at a time where the obsession is still about, we need to calm the markets, and what else can we do to make those who carry out speculative attacks on the euro cry? We just create a kind of a barrier that is a wall higher and higher in terms of money. This, by the way, is at the moment in which we also have this very interesting, which is not, I think, an Arab Spring, but a Mediterranean Spring, if you include also Albania, as well as Tunisia, and obviously Egypt, the most important case, and in which the European Union as an organization seems quite incapable of articulating something due to its hypocrisy of having for many years accepted lack of liberties and freedom in exchange for strong men and some economic reform. So the EU is also embarrassed at the time I'm speaking, because instead of investing in strong democratic institutions, they invested in strong men and limited economic reform. Now, if you think about this topic that was going on in my mind of calming the market, there are many, many disparities elsewhere in the world. For example, some has looked at the credit default swaps between Illinois and California, how investors rate the financial stability of California, which is always in disarray, almost by definition, with Illinois. Obviously, they're very high because investors make a difference between Illinois and California, two American states, and they judge the difference to be bigger than the difference between Ireland and the Netherlands, or between Portugal and Italy, countries of the Eurozone. However, we don't need to calm the markets about California and Illinois. We don't need to create rescue funds, because there is essentially a system of fiscal federalism in America. There is, well, deep down, there is the federal government, and the fact that the U.S. is a federal union, but most importantly, there is a fiscal federal system that compensates automatically for asymmetric shocks some individual states that are hit by either a recession or episodes that affect disproportionately that country, that state, sorry. And this is in a sense, I think, that we're thinking about escalating the level of help that the rescue fund can give to these countries like Greece, Portugal, and Ireland. Then you look more or less at the entity. Now that we reached almost 500 billion, it is the entity of a 4-5% GDP of the total EU GDP, fiscal federalist structure that, if accepted as a federal budget for stabilization, would immediately stop the markets, because it would claim that the Eurozone has its own fiscal federalist system and is going to intervene with that level of money that is not accepted as such nowadays, simply because it's seen as a move towards not federalism, but fiscal federalism. But clearly that's what I think the markets are asking for, paradoxically, is for the countries of the Eurozone to make a political step forward, even with the same money. That's what I'm saying. It's not a problem of related to the quantity of resources. It's a problem that has something to do with the political determination to guarantee or not to guarantee a fiscal federalist system in Europe. Now, some years ago, a very good political scientist, Alexander Trescher, based at that time in Geneva and now at the UI, he argued that the EU suffers from a federal deficit, and he was looking at unanimity and the way the constitution was being shaped, and he added this very polemical note when he said that the federal deficit in Europe is a cause of the democratic deficit, because by comparing Switzerland, the US and Europe found that the lack of a federalist structure in Europe created rooms for technocratic policy making, for some restrictions of genuine democratic rights of the individuals to express opinions, all this that does not exist in a country like Switzerland. He was looking especially at the unanimity requirement for changing the EU constitution that does not exist except in the non-democratic federation of the Russian Federation and in some sections of the Canadian constitution. But this is my thoughts there, starting with calming the market. The Europeans are putting a lot of money there. The markets are not calm. The same money can be used perhaps for a fiscal federal structure. Perhaps we are going there, and that's why I thought at this point my scene stops, like in a film, and fades out with essentially me thinking about back in history. So let's go back in